Welcome to the Sacred Journey podcast. I'm Elizabeth Marth Tarara, and I'm a certified conscious uncoupling and calling in the one coach, as well as a certified spiritual and emotional growth coach. And my purpose in this podcast is to shift the perspective on midlife changes being something of a crisis to the truth that they are a beautiful opportunity to awaken and a necessary part of our life's journey. I specialize in walking with women who are experiencing disconnect from themselves and who are facing life-changing experiences. And as hard as these situations can be, there is still the truth that these painful times can be the catalyst that can change our lives for the better. Change is what ignites the desire deep within us to reconnect to our true selves and our true divine purpose. It moves us to step up and live the lives we are being called to live, reclaiming yourself and reclaiming your life. So if you are hearing the call to walk this journey, keep listening, because I promise this is going to be good. And remember, life is all about the journey, not the destination. Hello and welcome to the Sacred Journey podcast. I'm your host, Elizabeth Marth Tarara, and I am doing an amazing self-abandonment series. I think it's amazing anyway. And today I am talking about sexuality. Huge topic. I wrote my blog about this, as I always do, a blog and a podcast relating to one another. And I texted my amazing creative guru who does all of the technological and creative stuff for me and was like, I don't think I can just do one. I think we need to do a series within a series on women and their sexuality. They say what is personal is universal, and sexuality and my relationship to it, my self-abandonment of it, has been a huge part of my life. And I don't believe that I'm alone. For those women that have always had healthy, confident, connected relationships with their bodies and their sexuality and sensuality, I applaud you and think that is absolutely amazing. You know, my mother was very open. My mother was a feminist as well as like a Christian mystic. So there was a lot of different thoughts on sexuality, but she always taught me about my body and how important it was for me to be connected to it, and wasn't something that I ever felt connected to. So while in my home, sexuality was never taught that it was bad. There, you know, our bodies are beautiful. Our bodies are created as sacred temples, for lack of a better word. And it wasn't that I was taught that sex was bad. It was more, you know, sex is a very natural part of life and it's a gift from God. As much as I was taught those things and actually grew up in a very like pro-body, pro-sex, if that makes sense, it wasn't pushed, but I had someone I could talk to about it. My mother was very open about it. I was given a book when I was like 4, and then, you know, ask all my girlfriends, like, you know, we would talk about sex. My mom would talk about sex. I personally was still never comfortable with my sexuality. While I liked my body, I was never connected to my body, especially in a sexual way. I don't think, again, I'm alone in this. So this particular podcast is about how we self-abandon in our sexualities, really within our own selves. So I believe, as I have lived my almost 46 years, that our relationship with our sexuality is completely correlated to our sense of self-worth, how much we actually love ourselves, love our body, know ourselves, know our body, know our value, have a sense of a self, have a sense that sex is this beautiful gift from the divine, both for ourselves, how to please ourselves, how to pleasure ourselves, as well as how to share that with another person. This was not my experience for most of my life until I started having some mind shifts and learning and reading and training in some different modalities, really connecting me to my own sexuality. In some circles, it is very openly talked about. Like my eyes were open to there is a whole world of amazing women, men, people who are extremely connected to their sexuality, who their whole coaching is around helping people to connect to their sexuality through all kinds of different modalities. And one of the people that I am listing within my blog is Regina Thomas-Schauer, known as Mama Gina, who has 2 books. One is called Pussy, A Reclamation, and one is called The School of the Womanly Arts. And both are excellent. There's links to both of them. And I did a training with her, the Pleasure Boot Camp, that honestly changed my relationship with my sexuality. So many things become normalized. My point being in all of this is that I absolutely believe that our sense of self and our worth and our value is absolutely like a mirror of how good our sex life is and how healthy our relationship with our own sexuality is. That's what I want to talk about today, because I think it is a place where we self-abandon. One of the first places that we shut down when we have had trauma, when we have had an experience that was crossing boundaries, that was scary, that didn't feel good, that we were taught that sex is bad, that our bodies are shameful and we can't listen to them, and they're going to lead us into all these horrible different avenues. And so we need to shut down that piece of us. And whether that's through religion or family or culture or whatever that is, I believe it is an entire detriment to us as human beings, to us as women. The religious piece of it, if it's sex after marriage, if it's sex before marriage, it's a moot point. I don't believe this actually matters. I think self-abandonment in sex spans every religion, culture, race, age. It doesn't matter, because we're born into bodies. We begin having sexual urges from a very young age. Little girls touch themselves, little boys touch themselves. Masturbation was seen once as like bad and evil and all these things. And maybe you still hold those beliefs, and that's okay. I'm not here to like challenge moral code. However, I am here to say that I absolutely believe that our sexuality is a gift from God. And when we can actually embrace it and empower it and step into it and stop self-abandoning around it, so many things will change. I want to say everything will change, because it's our first initial piece, one of them anyway. So when something triggering happens, whether, like I said, it's a verbal thing that we're taught or whether it's a actual physical experience, we shut down that part. We can disassociate, we can avoid, we can self-abandon. And that sticks with us. Like sexual trauma or sexual beliefs or sexual teachings, they stick with us. Like they are so deeply ingrained in us. Also, what happened to our ancestors. So like whatever happened within your family of origin, that is in your DNA. So we carry that within us. There's a lot. There's so much that comes with sex. And when we start to shut off that part of us, that desire, when we start to think that our body parts are bad, when we start to feel shame, that's when things go wrong. That's when we can act out sexually. That's when we can repress ourselves sexually. That's when we don't know how our own body works, right? Like how our own vulva operates, like what actually feels good, what doesn't feel good. As women, we'll shut down our own needs, our own knowing, and we'll want to please our partners. We'll want to please the other person or persons. So however you roll, awesome. Again, it's about like how we are shutting down our own sexuality, how we are self-abandoning. So from a young age, I think, or a later age, or whenever, we can start shutting that part of us down and not knowing it. And when I started to discover, like, I actually could love my body and I could have a sexual relationship with my body without anybody else, my mind was blown. Now, that might sound really stupid and naive, but it was never a part of me I felt comfortable exploring until I was ready. Today, I really just am wanting to open your mind to how you are self-abandoning sexually. And it starts with, how are you self-abandoning within your own body? How do you talk to your body? How do you look at yourself in the mirror? Do you criticize yourself? Are you full of self-hatred when you look at yourself or when you talk to yourself when you're naked? Do you even look at yourself naked? An awesome exercise that Catherine Woodward Thomas does in Calling in the One is actually having us stand in front of the mirror naked and looking at our own bodies and seeing what we love about it. Because so often we can look at our bodies and we can be like, oh my gosh, my hips are, my breasts are sagging, or I nursed babies for 3 years, or I don't like my cellulite, or I don't like my thighs, or I don't like my feet, or whatever it is. We can see what we don't like, but what do you like? Like, even just that simple exercise of looking in the mirror, what do you like about your body? And can you tell yourself, wow, I have really great hands. I have really great nipples. I love the way my knees go out. I don't know. What is it that you can do to start connecting with your body? That's the first piece. The next piece is, how can we start to love ourselves and see ourselves in our worth, right? Because then this shows up sexually, and it goes back to the connection with the divine, right? When we don't have that connection with the divine, we then don't have a connection with ourselves. We then are looking outside of ourselves for external validation. And oh my God, how that comes with women and sex, or women and physical affection, is so freaking huge. The piece of our own self-worth, our own value, our connection, that we are like creations of the divine. It's all within us. It's so fucking mind-blowing and life-changing that it's not actually about finding somebody else to please so that we can then feel validated by their response. It's not about giving ourselves away when we don't want what's happening. It's not about doing things to only please another person and not having an intimate emotional connection. The piece of coming back to ourselves, becoming self-centered, is where we find the love for ourselves, for our bodies, for our own sexuality. Because until we do that, we're actually not being the partners that we want to be for the people we want to be with. It's all so tied together. And I'm going to have to continue this because I want to go on with so much, because when we self-abandon sexually, we shut down. We have disease that comes into our body because our sexual energy and desires and power is so huge. When we shut down our sexual power, we shut down our own power, because we disconnect from our bodies, from who we are, from an integral part of us. What are the other ways that you self-abandon? For me, I mean, like, I just shut fucking down. I just shut down. It was like I was on autopilot and that piece of me didn't exist. It disrupted my sex life with my husband. I don't want to say I was depressed because I wasn't having sex, but I was depressed because I was shut off from myself and from my body. I felt ashamed. I didn't want to be touched. I didn't want to be seen naked. I didn't like how I looked, like in clothes, not clothes so much, but like underwear and like sexy lingerie and different things like that. I would pretend that everything was fine. I was in such a place of avoidance and pretending and abandonment. From those places, it can go anywhere. It can go to acting out sexually with being extremely promiscuous and getting harmed. It can go to affairs. It can go to not having sex for years and years and years. When we are in a conscious state and we're making conscious choices, that's an entirely different situation than when we are self-abandoning and shutting down because we just aren't looking at what's going on within us. I'm going to stop here because I think that this is enough for one podcast, and I'm going to continue. I'd love feedback on this. I'd love to know your thoughts on this. I would love to know where you are abandoning yourself, where you are with your sexuality. If your sexuality is like up here and your relationship with your sexuality is up here, I would love to hear that. I would love to know. So I will see you back here next week, talking more about sexuality and our relationship to it. Have a great week, guys. Thanks so much for joining me to explore this midlife journey together. Join me next week as we continue to seek within ourselves to find what we are really looking for, so we can awaken to all the bountiful possibilities that life provides, and then align with the beautiful energy of love within each of us. You can also connect with me on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. All of the info is in the show notes. And you can check out my website, sacredfreedom.life, where I have my blog, videos, book reviews, meditations, and more. And if you feel so inclined, you can book a complimentary discovery call with me to learn about how you can work with me on your own journey of awakening. See you next week.